Hey guys, it's me again. This is a story of 3 days in a life of the typical leasehold block of flats. Yes, it happens to be the one where I live, but it's not about our block of flats. It's not about special pleading for law change to help our development. It's actually about the experience of leaseholders up and down the country. What we've gone through in this last bank holiday weekend is what leaseholders everywhere will be facing in a block that they don't control, a money pit they don't control. And it comes on the day that Barclays has published some truly devastating data on the scale of the leasehold scandal. More on that in a minute, but for now, it starts with a leak. I just had a fly that hit my eye. We should do it one more time. Our freeholder still hasn't replaced our 20-year-old pressure-reducing valves. Yet another one is blown. The people battling this flood of hot water are not the managing agent, not the landlord, not contractors. The only people available on a bank holiday Sunday afternoon were leaseholders. These are no amateurs. Andrew has a business renovating property.
When I opened this, there was just water coming all the way out. There was steam everywhere. The carpets were soaked. It was going down around about 6 or 7 floors. I could see that all of these needed to be closed off to stop the leak. It's quite straightforward. Obviously, there's this one. This one is actually quite loose now, but this one was completely stiff. It had to be, I smacked it. It's slightly bent, but we had to knock it with a hammer. Obviously, it hasn't been maintained either, so it's obviously really stiff. And at some stage, we used WD-40, and we were able to hit it with a mallet and close off the water. And then that was the end of the problem.
Next stop, the basement car park, where resident Ian claimed this stuff was a leak of raw sewage. It certainly smelt like it. Ian was unhappy about the thoroughness of the clean-up job.
Well, I'm afraid so.
What Ian's saying is that it's not been chemicalised. It's not health safe, is it?
You smell it.
No, I
You get
know.
the
I
waft
can
of
smell
it.
it.
It's terrible. And basically, these bins, what are these doing here?
Ian has a point, but it has been far worse. This was our car park for months last autumn, attracting this visitor who chewed up the controls on the garage gate trying to get out. Next stop, electricity bills, which popped into our inboxes just before the weekend.
So before last week, we hadn't actually had an electricity bill since the end of November, which is absolute hell for the leaseholders in this building who rent out their apartments because they can't pass the cost on to their own tenants because they don't have bills. But that's not the worst of it. The worst is the rate. The average commercial electricity rate here in London is currently about 25p per unit. There's an estate up the road very similar to ours, which the manager, a court-appointed manager, has negotiated 22p a kilowatt hour. Here, it's 35p. Now, this is a huge building with hundreds of leaseholders and below us 12 commercial floors. Whoever's buying the electricity has huge purchasing muscle if they choose to use it. They obviously haven't.
Next, drugs. As bank holiday weekend got underway, one of our leaseholders snapped this deal happening on our very front steps. One reason we're attracting this attention is the rep our building has for party lets and Airbnb. It's become the pleasure zone. Airbnb is a new scourge in our building. Because service charges now are sky high, some of our neighbours have resorted to becoming Airbnb hosts. But you know what? That's wrong. It's a breach of the lease. It's more drugs, it's more parties, it's more unregulated flows of people coming into our home. And some of these guys, they've gone to extreme measures to keep the party going. They're doing key safes off-site. This is like a treasure hunt. We're trying to track them down. After years of complaining about these Airbnb incidents, we've got no evidence that the landlord is taking action to punish these breaches of lease. And you know what? Some of our neighbours, they're trying to enforce the lease terms themselves with warnings in the lift, and some even becoming vigilantes, coming to crack these key safes. That is not the right solution, is it? But we've got no choice. Last stop, insurance. For one couple in our building, this bank holiday was especially bleak.
It started in here, there's a leak from the toilet. I've taken the tiles up from here.
For months, water had been seeping from this toilet into the gap between their floors and the concrete screed underneath.
Then I actually spoke to the buildings insurance, and they came out. They're great. They came out much when I was here. They actually checked the moisture everywhere. They said you've got 100% moisture in here. The plastic was just soaking wet. It was just water all under here. It actually stopped about here, but The insurance company said, you need to move out. We put you into a hotel, but the excess is 25,000. 25,000, right? And they said they had a quote for 28,000. So all the insurance company did is give us £3,000. It's obscene.
It's obscene.
So what do we do? We've had quotes for 6,000 just to strip out. We don't have £25,000 to pay excess insurance, so we decided on Friday to actually take all the flooring up ourselves. All these kitchen units are all going to go. Everything's got to go. It's like living in Beirut, isn't it?
So there we go. In one bank holiday weekend, we've been able to blow right out of the water the freeholder lobby line that they are the noble custodians. Imagine if we had management control. Our leaseholders would be able to get the best insurance policy, would be able to stop the leaks, would be able to crack down on Airbnb, and would be able to haggle for the best utility contract in the land, just like flat owners do the world over. But you know what? It's not about me. It's not about our leaseholders. It's not about our development. It's about the millions of other leaseholders in this form of financial servitude. Look, don't take it from us. Brilliant research has come out from Barclays on Tuesday.
This extraordinary survey, published by one of Britain's biggest lenders, proves the miseries of our building are typical of leaseholders everywhere. Just over 37% of leaseholders said they found their ground rent and service charges affordable. But hang on a minute. That must mean the other 63%, nearly 2/3 of all leaseholders, were not prepared to say they could afford the charges. Only 23% say they understood their charges would increase in the way that they have. Does that mean the other 77% were not expecting the rises they've since been clobbered with? According to the survey, only 13% of leaseholders think they're getting good value for their service charges. A mere 10% think their money is being spent effectively. And finally, nearly a fifth, 17%, are concerned they won't be able to sell their homes because of high charges. That's a damning indictment of leasehold.
Rishi, if you've got this far, this one's for you. At the 2019 general election, you and your entire ruling party stood on a manifesto commitment that said you'd implement a ban on the sale of new leasehold homes. That includes flats as well as houses. Now, you've gone through this video, you've seen the misery that this system inflicts on ordinary people. You also know it's not an economically efficient system to govern flats. Your leasehold and freehold reform bill is coming to the end of its parliamentary journey. June 5th, less than 4 weeks before it gets its report stage in the House of Lords. But it could be a truly landmark piece of legislation, a legacy policy. But you only need to do two things. One, require that all new flats come with a share of the freehold. We've had 22 years to discuss second generation common hold. Let's not faff around and waste more bandwidth on it. We need control now. And for those of us already instead, yes, the buzzword is control. Slash the red tape on collective enfranchisement and right to manage, so we get into the driving seat of our homes and our service charges. Rishi, I know you believe in this agenda. In June 2018, you might have forgotten now, but in a Bethnal Green living room, you told me leasehold is a scam. It's in your hands. Will you free leaseholders?